Welcome back to another episode of Legacy Battle. I am Michael Adams. My co-host tonight from Steelers Nation South is Rollo Coughlin. Remember to hit that like, subscribe, notification button. We got a career interview for you today. We're joined by a member of Team USA Wrestling, silver medalist at the 96 World Championships, and then became a weightlifter representing Team USA at the 2000 Olympics. So we want to welcome Jackie Berube here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Let's start our interview here. Rollo, go ahead.
So, Jackie, you were a gymnast in high school and college, and a very successful gymnast at that. What made you transition into wrestling, and was it a difficult transition?
Yeah, so at the time, I did 4 years of college gymnastics. And, at that time, when you got done with college, that was pretty much the end of the road for gymnasts in that era. Simone Biles has changed that a little bit, and we can see her pushing that age up a little bit for competitive gymnastics. But when I was younger, college was pretty much it as far as competitive gymnastics went. And really, for your Olympians, they were much younger than that, right? So they were actually before college, and then college kind of happened after that. And then there wasn't any opportunity after college at that point. So I was just kind of dabbling around. I ran a marathon and did a team triathlon, and I was kind of just trying to figure out what was I going to do, because as a gymnast you spend so much time training and working out, and that was part of who I was, and I needed something to fill the time. And so the strength coach at lacrosse at the time was also the wrestling coach, and I was getting my degree in strength conditioning, so I was working with him in the weight room. He's like, come out for wrestling. And I was like, oh, I don't know. But I came from a really big family of wrestlers. And so all my brothers and all my sisters had wrestled previously to my getting into wrestling. And so he's like, just come out, try it. You'll really like it. And I was like, I don't know, and so that's really he's like, we really need an 18-pounder. And at the time, lacrosse had the number one 18-pounder in the country, but he couldn't cut down until the very end of the season. So that's where they used me to fill in for the first half of the wrestling season, when I decided I would actually give it a go. So it took a little bit of convincing, but he was relentless. So I finally gave in to his prodding.
Let's build off of that a little bit here. So as you mentioned, in high school, you're on the men's wrestling team. How was that received by your peers and your opponents?
In college.
College, excuse me.
Yeah, college. In college, I wrestled 1 year on the men's wrestling team at the University of Wisconsin Lacrosse. Well, luckily for me, my brother was actually on the team as well. And so they worked that, I roomed with him on all the trips and stuff like that, which worked out really well. But he was really great because I had some younger sisters that wrestled, and my sister plays at state in Michigan. But so we were kind of used to that, females not being really accepted in the wrestling community at that point. And he stood up for anyone and everyone that had something to say about me. But it was a battle at first. I went in and I worked really hard, and I think it was really cool to see, at the beginning of the wrestling season, I wasn't well accepted, but by the end of the year, I had really earned and gained my acceptance on that team. So that was really cool. When I started being able to score some takedowns and to hold my own instead of just getting the crap kicked out of me every day, I think that kind of changed. And then, there's something to be said for showing up every day and getting the crap kicked out of you and showing up again to do it over and over again, right? That builds some respect and camaraderie as well.
So Team USA Wrestling, what was your experience like with that? And you were one of the best in the world. So was there a reason we didn't see you in the Olympics for wrestling in maybe 96 or 2000? Obviously 2000.
Yes, I won a couple national championships. In 98, I actually competed in the national championships for weightlifting and wrestling the same weekend on different sides of the country. So that was really interesting. In 1998, the national championships for weightlifting were in Flagstaff, Arizona. And I competed there. It was like my second weightlifting meet ever because I lifted in one local meet and qualified for nationals. And in my weight class, I had Tara, I had Robin Goad, I had Melanie Roach, I had a girl named Melanie Getz, and I placed fifth at my first national championship for weightlifting. And then USA Wrestling allowed me to do my official weigh-in in Flagstaff at my weightlifting weigh-in. And then I took a red eye and flew all night to the wide world of sports, and I competed in the wrestling national championships. That was Saturday and Sunday, and then I won that national championship. So I did win the national championship in '98 for wrestling.
So 2000 Olympics, the first Olympics to have the sport of weightlifting for women.
Yeah.
What went into that decision to switch the sports, and what drew you to it?
Yeah, so really for me, you can never say what if, right? But at the time, weightlifting was in the Olympics. We knew that in '98, right? And so after I competed at that national championship, which was like my second meet ever, I was invited to come to the Olympic Training Center and be a resident athlete for the sport of weightlifting. And so at the time, I was a strength coach at Northwestern University in Chicago. And I basically walked away from my job and thought that I was coming to the Olympic Training Center and that I was going to be able to do wrestling and weightlifting when I got there. And they very quickly put a kibosh on that. They were like, we will not have a two-sport athlete. And I don't know if you know who Mike Duro is, but he was my wrestling coach at the time. And he was like, nope, you have to make a decision. And they gave me like one day to make a decision. And at the time, weightlifting was in the 2000 Olympics and wrestling was not in the Olympics yet, right? And we didn't know when it was going to be in the Olympics for women. And back then, everything was like self-funded. And so I was spending a lot of money to go to all these meets and events. And as an Olympic sport, there's so many more opportunities to be funded, to have insurance, to live and train at the Olympic Training Center, which wasn't an option as women's wrestling wasn't in the Olympics.
So in 2006 at the World Weightlifting Championships, you had a gruesome injury. Can you walk us through what happened and how were you able to compete just a few days later?
Yes. So I should have done my very best at that competition. I had done my best lifts in training ever. The day that I dropped that weight on my leg, I snatched 93. I dropped it off the platform. So Bob said he wouldn't count it, but I count it. And I clean and jerked 118. And it was, I think, my very first set of pulls at 120. And I just ripped the bar really hard and my strap broke. I don't know if you guys are familiar with straps, right? But you use them to hold onto the bar, especially when your hands get a little bit beat up. And it broke really weirdly at the wrist, which was strange, but it kind of cartwheeled me sideways, and then the weight came down and landed on my leg and severed my quadricep.
Wow.
So that happened, and it felt like I was laying on the platform forever. I'm sure it was only a few seconds, because I was trying to like catch my breath and get up, and shake it off. And the trainer was like, "Oh, you just bruised it, you'll be fine." And then I went down to sports med and they treated it. And then the following week we were leaving for the Dominican Republic for the World Championships. And the orthopedic doctors only came in like once a week. So I saw the doctor at the training center on Monday. It was Monday. I don't remember exactly the day. And then we were leaving like the next day for the World Championships. And so he was like, yeah, I don't know. I don't like the way this looks, but he's like, come see me when you get back and we'll look at it. So I did go to the World Championships and I did compete. I almost bombed out in the snatch because clearly I couldn't get up out of the bottom of a deep squat because I had no quadricep attached. But I did pull out a snatch and I made 2 clean and jerks. It wasn't the performance that I should have had, but all things considered, I finished 11th, which, wasn't what I wanted, but with one leg. So I guess there's that. And then when I got back, he told me that it was career ending and he couldn't fix it because I walked around on a severed quadricep for 3 weeks or more. And I was very upset about that. And I was like, you don't tell me this is career ending. You will fix it. Fix it. Fix it tomorrow. Anyway, and he did do a really good job fixing it because I never had any issues with it after that. But yeah, that's the story. So yeah, it was a complete sever of my vastus medialis, and I severed 50% of the rectus, and then I split the rectus up a good 3 inches.
Wow.
Yeah, so don't use straps. Straps are bad.
So, Jackie, we talked about a little bit earlier about your transition from gymnast to wrestler to weightlifting. How much did your diet change, and did you use a nutritionist to help you with these different professions?
Yes. So, I mean, in college, I was probably a little bit over 100 pounds. I didn't eat very much, and that was pretty much standard for the entire team back then. Then when I went to wrestling, I got to gain some weight, right? Because I wrestled at 118 in college. And then I started weightlifting at 53 kilos. So I was cutting down to 110 for wrestling anyway. So then I started having to cut. And then I really spent my whole entire career, whether it was weightlifting or wrestling, cutting weight. I did work with a nutritionist at the training center a couple times. It's really hard to really understand weight cutting, I think, and unless you've competed or have participated in a sport where weight cutting is relatively prevalent, it's really difficult for a nutritionist even to kind of understand that process. And so I felt like they weren't giving me good information sometimes. I had a guy actually that worked for the Surgeon General, and he was a military guy, and he came out and was a nutritionist at the training center for, I think he was like on a year rotation, and he was fabulous. And he actually came from my hometown, which is Escanaba, Michigan, and he knew my family and my brothers, but he had wrestled and he'd done weightlifting sports, and he actually helped me cut to 53 kilos because at one point I thought it was a really good idea and I would be able to make the Olympic team if I cut all the way down to 53. And I was really lean at 58. So you can imagine how lean I was at 53. I made it, but I almost I bombed out at the trial. So because I spent everything trying to get down there.
Speaking of training, you have opened up a world-class facility in Colorado Springs, the weightlifting club. Tell us about your gym and tell us about your club's work with cancer survivors.
Yeah, so I'll start with the cancer survivors. So I was running a program, and I still have a couple people that come in. It's really donation based. They can come in, work out. I help them build bone density through doing, not always Olympic lifting, but a lot of times we'll do barbell stuff, overhead, things like that. Weight bearing activities, doing weights, things like that to help recover some of that bone density that chemotherapy and some of the cancer drugs really leach out of cancer survivors' bones. So we've seen really good results through DEXA scans for cancer patients who are doing load-bearing activity and being able to reverse osteopenia and osteoporosis through doing these exercises. So it's really, really cool. Something I'm really passionate about. I love that program. It's a little bit slower than it was a few years ago just because I'm so busy. I need to go out and recruit some more ladies, but I have a lady in my program that's been coming to me since 2009, and she's in her 80s and she still comes twice a week. So that's really cool to see. And then what was the other part of the question? It was tell you about my club, right?
Yeah. What made you decide to open your own club and help train others the way that you?
Well, I always knew that coaching was going to be part of what I wanted to do in life, right? I went and did the strength and conditioning thing. I worked at a Big Ten university. Um, so I always enjoyed that aspect of working with people and trying to help them get better and stronger and just be better athletes and better people. And so for me, the transition to owning the gym was a natural transition for me. And I knew that I didn't want to go back to college strength conditioning because anyone who's worked in college strength and conditioning knows that you're working a lot of hours. And so the gym was just, I call it my passion project, but it just allows me to give back to a sport that I really love and enjoy and share my knowledge with other people and hopefully help them get better as well.
And, just to follow that up, you were the 15th woman, just a few years ago, the 15th woman to be nominated into the Weightlifting Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
What was that honor like, and how did the news get broken to you?
Yeah, so it was really cool because for me, I wanted to go to the Olympics so bad. It's something that I dreamed of even when I was a little kid. I think the first time I started thinking about the Olympics, I was 5 when I saw Nadia Comaneci win medals at the Olympics, right? And so I don't know, it's weird. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but the Olympics is something that I always wanted. And so that was like all consuming for me. And I feel like some of the reasons why I never made the team was because I held it so tight that it was almost to the point where it was crushing me, if that makes sense, right? And so that desire to go. And so I felt that because I never went to the Olympics, that I would never have the ability to be in the Hall of Fame. And so, anyway, I didn't know, but my husband nominated me for the Hall of Fame, and I had an astronomical amount of points that not even going to the Olympics wasn't even a question because my career was so long and I'd done so much, and I won the Pan Ams and I held American records and done all these things, but I never really ever even considered the Hall of Fame. And so I got a letter actually in the mail, and I called my husband and I was like, "What is this? Do you know about this?" And he's like, "Yeah, I nominated you." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." And it took me a minute. I sat in my car for, I don't know, like 15 minutes. And I just needed to like kind of take it in a little bit because I just never ever considered that would be something that would happen for me. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and joining us. We appreciate your time. And is there a place people can donate? You mentioned for the cancer thing?
Yeah, I actually need to open my 501c3 bank account. I have it all set up and I've been working on it. I only like I just let the people come in and work out for free basically. So
Excellent, excellent. Well, I'll remind everybody, hit that like, subscribe, notification button. I can't tell you how important that is to every podcast out there. We want to thank everyone for watching. We'll see everybody next time. Have a great night.